All right. So today joining me, and I'm going to talk to Josh Kirby, one of our senior decoys in PSA and in the USA. And first of all, Josh, thank you very much for joining me. And what I would like you to do is introduce yourself to us, and please also give me all your history of when it comes to dog training. And our channel, Our Protection Dogs, is a channel that is just devoted to the raising, training, and development of protection dogs and your working dogs.
Okay. Just real quick before I talk about myself, just want to shout you guys out for what you do in South Africa. I've watched that progression for a while now, and you guys are doing fantastic work there. There's great dogs, great handlers, and now we're getting great decoys, which I'm very excited about coming out of South Africa. So, of all the international regions, you guys are doing fantastic. You should be very proud of that. To
Thank
answer
you
your
very much.
question, as far as yeah, you guys are doing great. Keep it up. Big fans of what's going on in South Africa. As far as my history with dogs, when I became a police officer, I was working deep nights, and I always had the envision that I would be a detective. Until I started seeing that on all the car chases and the foot chases and the big fights, these guys showed up that had dogs. I never saw them except for the really exciting stuff. So finally, I asked them, bright-eyed rookie, I said, "Hey, do you guys only come to the cool calls?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you do the rest of the time?" "Well, we're training dogs, or we're looking for dope." I said, "Man, that sounds fun, right?" So I really wanted to get a canine when that happened. So I was very fortunate as a very young police officer. They gave me a dog, which I thought was crazy. I also thought it was crazy when I was 21 years old and they handed me a gun and a badge and a car that went really fast, right? So my department had a history of bad decisions, and they gave me a dog on top of that as a young man. I had a lot of fun in canine. Towards the end of my canine career, and I wish I had have really got into this earlier, I discovered PSA. And that was around 2012. I started getting into PSA. I showed up to a trial just to watch, and I was blown away by what I saw. And I was very humbled because I showed up as the canine guy that does it for real, right? Like I'm the guy with the dog that does this on the street, and you guys are just here
Yeah.
for sport. And they were doing things that I wasn't capable of doing, and the dogs in my unit weren't capable of doing. So I was
Yeah.
impressed. I started going to PSA training to learn more. Of course, you show up, they're going to put you in a suit, right? So I'd had some experience decoying, obviously, with police dogs. PSA decoying was a little bit different. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot more about dog development, channeling drives, really working the dog, working with a PSA club, because I was working everything from puppies all the way through 4 and 5 year old dogs. Where with police dogs, we were working dogs that generally knew how to bit or knew how to bite, and we weren't really doing a lot of bite development or bringing that dog up, and shaping the dog the way we wanted it. So PSA really made me feel a lot more serious about the bite work we were doing with our police dogs, and I really got into the decoying. I saw the benefit of it. I saw the dogs in our unit getting so much better as far as their bite work, their confidence on the street, their confidence engaging a man. So that's my journey into PSA. I became a certified decoy in 2014. I've been a senior decoy for a few years. I've been fortunate to decoy all over the world except for South Africa. Um, Hopefully that'll happen one day. But
Soon, soon.
I've soon. Yeah, I've truly been blessed with all the places and the people I've got to meet traveling with PSA. It's fantastic, and I really enjoy trialing. I'm passionate about the decoys in the sport. I hope that every decoy in the sport, if even if they don't know me, they at least know that, hey, that guy is looking out for us. He's sticking up for the decoys. And I don't want to do that blindly. We need to be accountable for the things we do in the field. But
Yeah.
I do think we need some advocates for the guys in the suit that are sometimes casting a bad light at times.
I agree with you. I do think the first guys to get to blame because my dog didn't pass is always the decoy, and then it's the judge. It's never the handler, it's never the dog. It's always
Yep.
the decoy or the judge. So I do agree with you. And Josh, this kicks me off in the direction that I want to have a discussion with you regarding decoys and also with helpers at clubs level training dogs. How do you? I always listen to the the way that you guys use as decoys. Look, I'm not a certified decoy, but I do a lot of help work, and I just do not aspire to be a decoy. I want to compete. That's my big thing. I want to compete. But one thing I found so beautiful is when they say, the way we get the dog, that's the way we're going to give the dog back at the end of the day. Um, Tell me more about that little saying that you guys have.
Well, I mean, it's the same. And if you haven't heard it, in the decoy circles, is we always want to return the dog to the handler the same way it was sent to us. That's our mindset in trial, because in trial, we want the dog, to be safe. And we don't know that dog. A lot of times, especially if we're traveling for a trial, there may be 25 dogs on the field, and I've never caught one of those dogs before in my life. So I don't know the dog. I'll take that a step further in training, and let's change that saying just a little bit, right? In training, when you send the dog to me, I want to return that dog better than when you first sent it, right? Because we're in training now. So I want to build that dog. I want that dog to, leave me with a better skill set than when it was sent to me. Okay. So I think for all decoys, trial mindset, we want to return the dog the same way it was sent to us. And in training, we want to return the dog better. If that's not your mindset, your head and your heart's probably in the wrong spot for decoying. And that's the one thing about decoying that I think that keeps me coming back to it is, people ask, like I had a conversation with one of the guys I work with today, and he was like, you need to handle more and get out of the suit. You need to have younger guys do this. We need you handling more. And I understand that. But my passion is decoying. And that intimate embrace you have with the dog on the field, where the dog is apprehending you or biting you, and doing its job, and you're that person on the field with them is something that I still get a rush out of. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's something I still enjoy, especially like a really hard hitting, fast, just beast of a dog. It's truly an honor to catch those dogs. And I say that a lot. And I think a lot of people, kind of laugh. They're like, oh, it's such an honor to decoy. It is absolutely an honor to step on that field and have these moments with these animals, that are intimate, and you can't have those moments anywhere else. A handler trains the dog, or a trainer trains the dog. A handler handles the dog. A decoy has that intimate embrace with the dog that just doesn't happen anywhere.
Like,
hold on just a second.
Sure. So I always apologize. We always apologize for the noises and everything like that. So on our channel, it's nothing new for something like that to happen. So good. You know what, Josh? Something that you've just mentioned there now, and I once read a little thing. It's like a dance. It's like you can't explain that what's happening with it when you are catching a dog. And for me, the nice thing is developing it from puppy to a dog where you're having him now as a much more mature dog sitting in your arm, and he's going at it and pushing in there, and he wants to get deeper in it, and you can feel that as you stiffen your muscle, how you basically that predator instinct of his to hold on, and as you weaken up and he pushes in. And I think to me that is one of the most nicest feelings to have, to feel that predator and what it was designed for and what's going on in its mind. It's like you, the animal that he caught. And I mean, it's such an unnatural thing that we're doing with these dogs. I mean, it's unnatural, training them to sit and down and stuff like that. If you think that's damn unnatural, it's damn unnatural to teach them to go and fight a human being. Look, it's natural for them to chase and catch and kill, but it's so unnatural, but yet they do love it so much. And that's where my thing comes in, that I want you to give some advice today for especially the young decoys on how to get to that stage and that level where we're thinking of safety of the dog, safety of me, the decoy. That's our first priority. How would you start a mindset like that?
Well, I think that the mind you're working with a dog, our safety is important as decoys, but we understand the risk that we're taking when we're voluntarily allowing a dog to bite us, in a very violent manner. All right, so let's set the decoy safety aside for a minute and talk about dog safety, which really is probably more important. So dog safety, We always hear about decoys jamming dogs, right? That's usually probably the number one complaint, concern that people have is jamming the dog. And what, if you're not unfamiliar with what Charles and I are talking about, to the audience, when we talk about jamming a dog on maybe what I would call a long send, where a dog is run downfield a long way, it crashes into the decoy, and that decoy has really been more of a stone wall or a post, and not really absorb that bite, and that dog basically bites, and the rest of the body kind of crashes into their neck area, collapses on their head. That can lead to career-ending injuries. I've seen injuries happen right there on the field where the dog is not going to recover from that. But a lot of times, what's happening with those injuries is, just like an NFL football player or rugby player in South Africa, over time, those things are going to get worse. The more that happens, the more that those injuries will manifest later, as the dog gets older, right? So it's a huge concern for us for safety. Things happen on the field, things happen during bite work. It's a risk that everyone understands, when it comes to the dog. But Charles was talking earlier about slinging dogs around the field. When we're slinging dogs around the field just for the pretty photo or the video, we're risking some teeth popping out. That happens. I've seen it. Is it the decoy's fault? Not necessarily. Can it be? Yeah. And so it's things that we need to take into consideration. It's things new decoys need to be aware of, and they may not be aware of it. They may not understand, when they do something, what might happen, as a consequence of that behavior, or what you're doing with the dog. So that's important. Decoy safety, to me, that's a personal responsibility. There are some things that a decoy needs to go through as far as checks. Always check your gear, always check your sleeves, your suits, check them for holes. Those things are going to happen. Keep your gear in good repair. That's the first thing. And then check the handler's gear. A lot of times when we're working with a handler, I'll look and see, are you putting your dog on a collar or on a harness? Is it fitted properly? I'm really big on attachments. Very rarely are you ever going to see a collar just snap. And what you will see snap are the attachments that they're tied into. So good quality hardware is very, very important, whether that's a harness or a collar. And then same thing with the leashes. I would never use a cheap leash for any type of back tie agitation work, especially if I'm doing civil work and maybe I'm, using no equipment, and I'm stalking a dog while it's back tied. I'm really going to make sure that there's some good equipment on that dog before I do that. So those are some safety concerns on the decoy side of stuff. And then, of course, let's go back to personal safety with the decoy. Your fitness. We're here to talk about decoy fitness. Your health and your fitness is huge when it comes to safety. If you're not out there in good shape, you're not going to be successful. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to, shorten your career as a decoy. But the big concerns with that are strength, flexibility, longevity. Your cardio should be good. There's a whole list of things we could go through as far as decoy health, and decoy fitness that we could talk about, that'll better prepare you as a training decoy, but more so as a trial decoy. Training days are long. You can make it through it. Trials are a little bit tougher because there's a expectation or requirement of a trial decoy to be able to do a courage test on Sunday afternoon when you're really tired, the exact same way you did it on Saturday morning when you're fresh.
Yeah.
So there is a level of fitness that's definitely required from trial decoys, and I would argue any decoy that's walking on the field, whether you're a trained decoy or a trial decoy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bringing back rugby, I played rugby for a very long time in my life, and I'm sitting down today. It's the shoulder, it's the knee, it's the this, and it's the that, and it's the
Oh,
headache. But I mean, I won't change it. If I have my life over, I'll double it up a bit with do it better and harder than I did before. But I
yeah,
do
amen.
also find with a lot of the young new decoys is I'm a firm believer that you have to have a mentor, and you have to look at somebody and say, listen, this is what I. But I also say you mustn't, especially with decoys. And I remember we had an incident like that with one of our decoys, and I said to him, you know what? You're a very good decoy, but you think your problem is you're trying to copy your mentor, and you need to build your own personality, your own persona around it. And once he started changing that he really just started blossoming as a decoy. And I see a lot of the decoys out there are looking at this, like they're looking at Sean Siggins, they're looking at you, and they're trying to be that, and it's so heartbreaking, because by them wanting to aspire to be those guys, I think they are busy flying before they could even crawl. And that's where a lot of problems come in, and then a lot of accidents come in, unnecessary accidents that come in. And I think it's also just human. We want to do something, but we want to get on that pedestal, or we want to reach that point or that target too soon. We haven't even learned all these things, but yet we want to see ourselves there. I don't know if you've noticed that, especially with the new guys that just got certified. All of a sudden, it's like, and I think,
yeah. No, go. I think what you're saying is spot on. And I love the passion that new decoys have. Like, they're very excited about it. I love that. But going back to what you said, where someone's trying to be like Sean Siggins, or whoever it is they look up to, that's fantastic. Those are great role models to have. They're great mentors to have. Definitely watch their work and study their work. But whenever you're trying to have a persona, or be someone, in the sport, let's go back to what we talked about at the very beginning. We're taking away from the dog, right? This is about the dog, and decoys get a lot of attention. People like to, and PSA is such an exciting sport. Watching the dog on our courage tests or level 3 stuff, or the dual attack in the 2-mans, they're big sexy catches. Like, you're watching these videos and it's like, wow, that looks fantastic. And there is a lot of cool guy factor to that. But at the end of the day, it's about the dogs. It's not about the decoys. It's a sport about the dogs. That's why we made this sport. The decoys are a small part of that. And I would just encourage any young guy to not worry about persona. Don't worry about having, the only guy that can pull this off is Sean Edwards, where you've got, a character, right? Sean pulls that off because, like, that character he has matches his personality.
Yeah.
If I tried to show up to it does. Like he's almost like not in character, because it's just Sean.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a fun, loving guy, especially when he's decoying. So, like, that whole decoy thing just matches him, and that's kind of his thing. And I like, PSA is fun. If you're dressing up for PSA, cool. Like, as long as that's, like, it's because it's fun, not because you need a persona to be recognized. Ben Lipinski has said this over and over, and it's such a simple statement, but he says, just be really damn good. Just be really damn good at what you do. And people will notice your work if you're really damn good at it. People will find you. They'll notice you. You don't need a persona. You're really good at your work, and do that over and over and over. And people will be like, that guy's a good decoy. Like, I think that's the message you can send to a new decoy. Just do good work, and I promise you'll be noticed.
That's some good advice. Now, at the same time, you know what? This is what I also get. Or how I feel, or I see it. A lot of times, the decoys do get slack for a dog getting injured and stuff like that. But I also do feel that this is a 50-50 situation, because just as we're talking about sports, and just as we want a decoy to be fit and everything like that, you showing up onto the field, going to do a trial with a dog that is overweight, that's unfit. I mean, that to me is just as bad as a decoy wanting to show off and hurting a dog. If the decoy is going to do everything fine, this is a contact sport. If you're going to show up with a dog like that that's unfit, and as a handler, you are basically just as bad, or you actually worse, in the wrong, shall I say it, if your dog is injured.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's not always the decoy, it's also us as handlers and the competitors that have to, like, really, really take care of our dogs. I do see that. I remember listening to Ivan Balabov the one time, and he said PSA is such a new sport. If you're looking at the PSA 3 level, there's only so many that's achieved it. But he's really looking forward to the time where it's going to become like the PSA 3 is more achievable, and there's so many more people out there, because now it's going to be like there's not just 3 competitors at the nationals in the threes, but there's maybe 10 or 15, which is going to make it totally different. Now it's going to be a total different ball game, because now all of a sudden we're just passing the level threes. We just want to pass the level 3, then we're happy with it. But we're going to get to a stage in PSA where we don't want to just pass the level 3. We want to pass with high scores. Just passing is not good enough anymore. And I foresee that this is going to happen where if you don't have the fitness on your dog, and if you don't have the right nutrition of your dog, this ain't going to happen. You're not going to get that podium place that you're thinking of. Does that
No, I
make
agree.
sense? What do you think?
I've seen some fantastic 10-year-old dogs on the field that are in the shape of a 3-year-old, and that's a credit to their owners and their trainers to condition the dog like that. In Texas, it's not uncommon for us to trial, when it's close to 100 degrees. So that's probably close to 40 Celsius. I haven't done the conversions in a long time, but that's hot.
Yeah, that's hot, yeah.
Yeah, it's those are hot trials. They're hot for the decoys, but they're also hot for the dogs.
Yeah.
And you see dogs, especially in the level 3, because it's so demanding of the dog. They'll be on the field in the middle of the day in the sun, and towards the end of their scenario, it's not that their training isn't capable of keeping up with the scenario. It's their fitness level. So there's handlers out there that are putting their dogs on treadmills. They're doing heat conditioning, getting their dogs ready for trials. And you have to do that in the upper levels. I see so many dogs gas out towards the end of the routines. And it's a routine that they can do normally. But, because of the heat, the humidity, just the length of the exercise, they'll get tired. So that's huge for dogs. It's huge for decoys. It's huge for dogs.
Yeah. We don't understand the cold weather. We always trying to have our competitions and everything here in August, which is the arse end of winter. So this year we're going to have it now like the height of the summer. So we're going to have a night trial, which is happening in November. So we're busy training with our dogs. And I mean, we're already hitting the high 30 degrees Celsius now. I don't know how much that is in the hundreds of Fahrenheit and stuff like that, but it's hot. And I can see my dog is pretty well conditioned at this stage. But you can see that there's certain I have to in between scenarios that I need to just walk with him a little bit, or let him lie down for a while just to catch that breath again. And I mean, I'm not even as active as he is, and I can feel that heat outside there. How do you find that in cold weather with the dogs? Do they perform better, or obviously you're going to have to warm them up twice as good in cold weather?
Yeah, I don't do many cold weather trials. I would love to, but it seems even in the States, our cold weather or our winter trials are always in the South. So usually the first trial of the year is in Tampa, Florida. They've had the first trial of the year over the last several years. That's in January, but it's Tampa. You're still going to be pretty warm. I'm trying to think of the coldest trial I ever worked. And it might have been a Dallas trial when we did it in February. And that's, still a 60 degree, 70 degree day. It's great weather, but we're not doing anything, like in the freezing temperatures. I wish we would, because I would love that as a decoy. I decoy in that. But I'm sure the dogs, anytime I've worked a dog and it's been colder, they definitely work better when it's cool. They're just, they're getting gassed out as quick. I think cold weather trials would be a great idea. The big concern here is, trialing up north. When we're trying to plan a trial in the winter and cold weather, we've got to look out for snow, ice, or conditions for competitors. As far as traveling to the trial, that's a bigger challenge than the actual weather at the trial. But I'd be a fan of cold weather trials if we could get more of them.
Yeah, I don't think in South Africa, maybe in a couple of 100 years from now, it'll be different. But we also, even our winters, I mean, I go through our whole winter with short pants. I never wear long pants. I wore a jean now the other day we went out one evening, and I said to my wife, I'm hating it. Just hating the long pants. So, but coming back to our discussion with the safety aspect, and I see with all sorts of sports. We went to watch now the other day. We went to watch these guys with their dogs jumping over jumps and things like that. And I saw the dog come out of a box, go and run and jump on over the hurdles and what it needs to do, and they just directly go into the box. I thought to myself, you know what? We as competitors don't even think we think that's right. Now it sits there in that box, it heats up because of its body inside there, and especially in places like Texas and South Africa, where your dog is sitting in a box. You know that dog is going to get heat stroke. It can physically die in that box. I mean, we're not even talking about putting it in a car. I mean, none of us are that stupid. I don't want to even go that route. But I mean, just sitting in that box there, we have to take great care of it. Watering our dogs regularly, not big amounts of water, but just regularly. It's like basically like you and I playing sport. You as a decoy. And for me, this is lately. These are things that's been worrying me in all sports, in all the dog sports. I mean, I don't want to go into look. I love KNPV, and that's where my love for dog sport starts, is watching KNPV. But I mean, if I look at some of those hard heats, I don't watch those hard heats things anymore that they've got on YouTube, because I just cringe when I see it. It just hurts me to see how those dogs, and maybe that at that point they didn't get injured, but if they have to carry on like that at a later stage, it's damaging to the system. And I wanted to talk to you, especially when it comes to a decoy, from a decoy side, and being a very successful and a very good decoy, how you see it, and you know the advice that you can give to young guys. And I do think that we did bring it out in our conversation where you said, guys, you know what, my safety is not that important. I know what I signed up for as a decoy, but the safety of the dog is important. Um, but at the same time, us as handlers mustn't be assholes either, because I mean, if you show up with a dog that's unfit and everything like that and gets injured, I mean, that's all on you as a handler.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, there's
So yeah, tell me another thing I would like to know: how many decoys now in the whole of state, certified decoys? Do you know?
I don't know about actually in the U.S. What I look at is the entire list. As far as guys that are certified and still have an active certification, after the last couple camps, I think we're over 130. You kind of put me on the spot. That's worldwide. So
Yeah,
there's 130 guys and girls
yeah,
that are certified. Now, as far as active, I would guess that probably somewhere from 50 to 60 of those are really like actively trying to go to trials, and get work in.
yeah.
So some of the people will fall off the list. This year has been a huge year as far as decoy certifications.
I saw.
We've probably there's been 4 camps that I can think of off the top of my head. Every single camp had people certify at it. Some camps had a lot of people certify. There's probably at least another 30 decoys that were added just this year,
Yeah,
as brand new certs. So I'm excited for them. I think the tough part with that is now I see people on the list and I don't know them. So I'm looking forward to trialing with them and
yeah,
getting some work in with them, getting to know them as people and as decoys. But it's
yeah,
exciting to get new blood in the sport. I think the sport's going to grow even more over the next few years. We really need some judges in the sport.
yeah,
It seems like where we're lacking the most, and
yeah,
the judge apprenticeship program takes so long to work
yeah,
through. So we really need to get a hold of that quick before,
yeah.
like even right now, there's people that want to hold trials and there's not judges to go to them. So
Well, dude,
um, we need to get ahead of that because
yeah,
we're building the decoy ranks. We need to build the judge ranks. So
yeah.
some people need to start to look, and there's some great candidates out there. I think some of the best candidates out there are probably reluctant to do it because it's a lot of responsibility, a lot of travel,
Yeah.
and a lot of time. So I hope they go down that road because the sport needs it.
Well, if you look at us now, we were supposed to have our trials in August, so it got postponed. Obviously, it was not just because of not being judges there, but also due to COVID and all the riots and the nonsense going on. But every time we had a date, we had no judge that could come over. Um, and so eventually they said, look, there's nobody judging in November, so have your trials in November. Then you'll definitely have a judge. Unfortunately, we have cats coming out. But as also in the international regions, and that's one thing that I also want to, bring up and start looking at and making it aware of the international regions. So I know in Australia there is one of the judges that can judge the PDCs and ones. Yeah, by us now it's Marley. We've had our first trial at the beginning of this year where we judged where she judged the PDCs and ones, and I think it went really well. But I think also with the international side of things, we're going to have to or PSA is going to have to look at it because it's growing internationally as well. And unfortunately, at the moment, I always said said to them, it's we all think it says it's an American sport, but it's not an American sport anymore. It's also our sport. It's also Australia's sport. It's also Europe's sport. And we have a gentleman now in Iran that they want to open up a PSA club. We've got Zimbabwe, we've got Swaziland, we've got quite a few places. Egypt is looking at opening clubs. So the big thing is that the sport is growing. There is going to be more dogs. And the trees are growing higher. We are going to catch the most wind. It's not far away. We already are. And we're going to have to start getting methods in place, safety methods for dogs, safety methods for humans, growth, all those kind of stuff is going to have to start being sharpened up a bit better in a way.
Yeah. Yep. It's all good hearing about the growth on your side of the world. That's fantastic. And there's this thing here. There's new clubs popping up every day. Hopefully they're successful. Hopefully they're going to train well and hold events. And turn out some decoys, turn out some judges, turn out some high-level competitors. I think that's what the sport needs. So hopefully those clubs are being mentored by other clubs, which I love seeing. I think that's one of the great things about PSA is that a new club can generally reach out to an established club, and they're going to get help. We all see the sport grow. There's very few people that are in this sport for themselves, which I love. We really do care about the sport, and we want to give back to the sport and do things for the sport that will help it.
Yeah, no, it's true. We're all a bunch of humans trying to beat the sport. So we're all a team against the sport. So I love that. Josh, thank you very much. I think we've covered a lot of things about the things that I wanted to speak to you about. Hearing from you, a senior decoy and a guy with your experience with decoy work and with helper work, and when it comes to safety. And I do think you gave some good advice to the young guys, and we are going to have you out here very soon. I know you were also very, very busy with the trials. And I must say that you are one of the people, especially for myself and for my wife, when we look at good decoys, not just in how they catch dogs and what they do, but as people, as human beings that stand out just by being gentlemen. We do rate you as one of the gentlemen in the sport. You always, on every trial field, you're there, you give it your all. I know you're also training your own dog. We always say on Facebook how active you are at your club. You are really a good role model for a lot of people out there. Your name gets thrown around a lot of you. You have even on our shirt, our PSA Africa shirt. I did think I showed you that. Was you catching SAR at the Nationals in Washington? So
Awesome.
thank you very much for that, Josh. And it was nice talking to you.
It's always good talking to you, Charles. Keep doing great things over there, and we'll talk soon, okay? Good luck at your trial in November.
Thank you so much, Squire.